I'm going to preface this video by saying I apologize in advance for how scatterbrained this is. I'm just so excited and I have so much stuff to talk about. I kind of just talked about stuff in a really random order. So I hope you're able to follow this, and I hope you get something interesting out of it, and I hope you enjoy. So today, of course, there was a Nintendo Direct, and they officially announced 2 new Pokemon games coming this year, Pokemon Sun and Moon. And they didn't give out a lot of information, but the little information they gave out, you can assume a lot from. So I'm going to talk about a few things that stood out to me and some of my thoughts and predictions about this game. Gotta catch 'em all, Pokemon! 2 things I definitely think about this region. One, it's going to be big, because for some reason during that really small teaser trailer that they showed us, they showed so much concept art for trucks and different kinds of vehicles. And one of them looked like it was like a mobile Pokemon Center or something. And I really think that they put an emphasis on this to show how big of a scope of the world this is going to be. If you look at this concept art right here, you can kind of make out a trainer riding with like a Furfrou and a Machamp. You can also see right here the truck parked somewhere, and it looks like the same truck from the concept art. So it's going to definitely be a more expansive world in some way. It's not like trucks were ever important in the Pokemon world though. And this also opens up the possibility of going to different regions, because in the Direct this morning, they worded it in a way that kind of implies this by saying all the different years of all the Pokemon games and then saying it all comes together in 2016. So I'm starting to think that there is some sort of crazy link back to the other regions here. I'd say that the 2 most likely regions for us to revisit are Kanto and Kalos. I think we'll be able to return to Kanto because they've put so much emphasis on it lately with all the products and all the stuff they've been doing for the 20th anniversary. And the interesting fact that they revealed this morning that you can transfer Pokemon using Pokemon Bank from the Virtual Console releases of Red, Blue, and Yellow up to Sun and Moon, but not X, Y, Omega Ruby, and Alpha Sapphire. Of course, it's very probable that this is just something to do with the programming of the game and not necessarily anything symbolic, but I still think it's somewhat significant that that's there. And there's also the fact that you were able to visit Kanto and the first 4 generations of games. So I think that it would be good for them to have some way to bring it back again to visit in the new generations of games in 3D. And I think it's only a tradition that's been broken in 5th and 6th gen, because 5th gen ended abruptly with the introduction of the DS, and of course the 6th gen Saga games haven't really reached a conclusion of their story yet, which I'll get to talk about in a minute. Which also leads me to believe why Kalos will be a place that you can go to, because there's still the mystery of the power plant that still has yet to be explored, and the mystery of Zygarde, which I still believe is going to be the main focus of this game in some way. Next topic I'd like to discuss is Zygarde. There's no doubt in my mind that Zygarde will be a central component of these games in some form. First of all, back in September, they revealed the new forms of Zygarde, and these forms aren't in the coding of X, Y, Omega Ruby, or Alpha Sapphire at all, so they have to be included in this new game somehow. And I believe they still have to play a central part in the story, especially if you look at the Zygarde complete form. And this poster for the upcoming movie, you notice that Zygarde has these 5 spots on its stomach. These 5 spots are red, a lighter red or closer to an orange, a white, a light blue, and a dark blue. It's pretty safe to assume the dark red and the dark blue correlate to Yveltal and Xerneas, while the light blue and the orange would correlate to Sun and Moon, considering the colors of their logos. And probably the central Pokemon in those games, the logos aren't really anything we've seen before and don't really match up with any current Pokemon currently in existence. That leaves a little mystery of the white spot, but I have a little idea that that might be the new recently revealed Pokemon Magearna, which is also, by the way, going to definitely play some sort of part in Sun and Moon, because Magearna has some white on it somewhere, and it also at its center has a red and blue little crest, which I think will play some part in this big story somehow. And the role that Volcanion plays in this, I'm thinking that Volcanion is just going to be an event legendary like Hoopa and Diancie was, and I think we're going to get it sometime before Sun and Moon come out on our current 6th gen games, considering all of the coding that it's currently in the game for that Pokemon in particular. I do think it might also play a part in the mystery of the power plant, just all those parts of the Kalos power plant that we see but never get to explore or anything. But that will probably be something that's triggered by trading it over to Sun and Moon whenever those come out, if we're able to go to the Kalos region, which I still bank on the fact that we are. So the next thing I'd like to talk about, the sun. the moon, and space. The games are obviously called Sun and Moon, and the Sun and Moon have always been a very central sort of theme throughout Pokemon. There's the Sunstone, the Moonstone, Solrock, Lunatone, Espeon, Umbreon, who was changed by moon waves on Eevee or something like that. Moon waves. Mount Moon is another one. Just kind of the start to it all. And I don't think that these particular Pokemon or items will really have anything to do with the story, but they might be hints of what Mega Evolutions we might be getting this time around, or at least it would make logical sense for Game Freak to do that. But as we all know, they don't always make logical sense. My last speculation is about space. Space has been a really central thing in Pokemon too. Many people even argue to say that all Pokemon came from space. And if you look on the logos, they have stars and a little galaxy looking thing there. In fact, in the Delta episode at the end of Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, the very last thing you do is go to space and catch Deoxys. Since that's intended as the last part of the last game they made before this, I think it's some kind of foreshadowing. I also think Team Flare will be involved somewhere, since they were the evil team that were trying to harness the power of Xerneas and Yveltal, which are parts of the Zygarde equation, and they're most likely named after solar flares, which obviously come from the sun, which is one of the names of the games. So congrats, you made it to the end. Thanks for listening to my ramblings, and if you want to continue this discussion, feel free to definitely do so below, and I'll definitely respond too. Really excited about these new games, and I hope to make some stuff for the Pokemon 20th anniversary soon. I'll see you next time.